As promised, part 2, emotion and focus, hope. So we talked about the perceived control and the relationship of self to engaging in actions that then demonstrate the level of control if all goes well. What happens if there's no hope? Close your eyes and imagine having no hope. What feelings arise as a result of that? So another way to look at hope as an emotion, or syndrome if you will, which is probably the way I would lean, as more thinking in terms of a syndrome. But then we flip it around and we say, okay, so if there is no hope, in the absence of hope, then what feelings are generated? And you can reflect on that a little bit. One that comes to mind then might be despair. Right? And despair, again, do we want to call it an emotion or is it a syndrome? But let's not go there because this is about hope, right? So now do the opposite. What feelings arise, right? That is, what feelings arise as a result of having hope? So maybe hope is an instigator of emotional experience. So if I have hope, then what emotions arise as a result of having hope? Kind of just a little thought experiment as we move through that. Associates then, empowerment, motivation, approach, patience, confidence, resilience are all qualities that might be generated through the possession or the experience of hope. Is hope woven into the fabric of America? Notice we've changed the statement on the Statue of Liberty. So we're certainly not about giving hope to immigrants anymore in this country. That's been pretty much made obvious. And it was the hope that brought so many of our families to this country. When the Polifronis, when the Zorzis, right, when they came to the United States, what was the deal? Why were they coming here? Because they hoped for a better life than they were finding in Italy. And they came around 1900, and they came in the face of prejudice. They were thought to be inferior human beings as Italians. But they had the hope, and they came to this country to make better lives for themselves. And the funny thing is that they realized it like so many other immigrants who came into this country. Right? My grandfather came to this country, Joseph Polifroni, and what's the first thing he did? He, opened up a grocery store and sold largely to Italian Americans. And he stressed to the Italian Americans the importance of learning English. And he met my grandmother, right, Adelia Zorzi, who became Adelia Polifroni. And she read like a fiend. My God, she read so much, and she was so learned. But it was hope. And what happened with their children? Well, they produced 4 children. And those 4 children went on with the hope inspired by their parents in this new environment. And 3 of those 4 children went on to fight in World War II. Right? And they all became kind of very successful in their own right. So is this something that was uniquely American? And that's a perspective-taking exercise. And the flip side is this just ethnocentrism at work. That America, because I'm an American, Americans are bitching, and this is the country of hope. But at this point in time, being an American seems like maybe not engendering hope in others. In Central America, people hope for a better life, and at this point, we're investing huge amounts of money to build a wall to keep them the hell out, to not realize those hopes. Now, there's a lot of justifications surrounding that. It's not a political argument, what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an emotional argument. So different in that regard. I don't know. Is this the country of hope? Do you want it to be the country of hope? Do you believe it's ever been the country of hope? Right? Those are, I think, fair questions, and I don't have answers. So, putting it all together then, what are we looking at? Well, we got agentic thinking, performers' perceived capacity to accomplish goals. I can do this. I can do this. I didn't think I was going to pass my candidacy exam. Right? I didn't think. I thought I was going to have to drop out with my master's degree. And my buddy Will Maddox, who we discussed in part 1, said, "No, Mark, you can do this, but you're going to have to do it differently than most of us to pass this candidacy exam. You're a theoretical thinker, not a detailed person. You gotta approach the whole task differently." And we talked about that, and he made me believe in myself again, and he restored my agency, and that's how I got to be where I am now. So it was the building the self-efficacy. And then the pathways thinking then was, let's get down to details and think about the plan. So rather than try to memorize every study in social psychology, as many of my cohort did to pass their candidate's exam, I had to think in terms differently because I didn't have that kind of memory. So I had to start thinking theoretically, and I said, what are the questions that they're going to ask on this exam? And then how will I answer those questions? And it was a much more successful approach. In fact, I anticipated right on the money a couple of questions, right? So different approaches, right? But it's learning how you will, what path you need to accomplish your goal, right? So you need self-efficacy, the belief you can do it. And then you need the mastery, though, and that's the hard work. And I think President Obama, among others, was trying to sell us on this idea. So the belief that you can generate multiple viable routes to desired goals. I will find a way to get this done, right? And that implies hard work. It ain't just going to happen. And notice, wishing is devoid of the hard work. Wishing, I sit on my ass and say, I wish, and leave it at that. So hope is generating effort. So let's talk a little bit about hope and resilience then. We get smacked down, and I get up again. Are we channeling Chubbawamba here? Perhaps. Right? So I get smacked down, and I get up again. If we move back in time from positive humanistic psychologists, we find ourselves at the existential movement that preceded it. And in the most dire circumstances, what do we know about Viktor Frankl? He's at Auschwitz, he's a psychologist, and he notices that some people are in absolute despair and they have no hope and they're just waiting to die, right? But he found also that there were some Auschwitz inmates that somehow maintained a level of positivity and optimism. They found a connection with God in this God-forsaken place called Auschwitz. And they were able to maintain hope. And from his experiences and reflecting upon that after he got out of Auschwitz, right, he coined the term resilience. And he wrote the book like Man's Search for Meaning, which is a hugely important book and a great read. Others later used the term hardiness, like Salvatore Madi in this lower picture here, right? And Susan Kobasa, his collaborator, and they do hardy training in this University of California, Irvine. And I felt myself really lucky to have a class with Salvatore Madi, two classes, one in the hardiness training and also in personality theory. And he was an ultimate personality theorist, so I was really lucky to have those classes. The terms will change, so is resilience. It can be called hardiness. Currently in vogue is grit or stick-to-itiveness. But these are components or these are behaviors that are associated with hope. Leaders on hope then, what do we know? When things looked horrible, when France had been overrun, when Belgium and the Netherlands had been overrun, Denmark and Norway had been overrun, what is Winston Churchill going to tell the British people? What is he going to tell the people who are on that island that is next on the Nazis' agenda, right? He says, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. And he busted his ass to make it happen, right? And he essentially led the free world to roll back the horrible legacy of Nazi Germany. Messages of hope come from many leaders. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right? Mahatma Gandhi, John F. Kennedy. These are all people who pushed forward a message of hope for an improved life. All were seeking to motivate their people, right, to a concerted effort to follow a visionary path against the odds. And I think that is, these are people who sell hope. And what then typifies, and obviously there's going to be debate about this, but I think one of the most important qualities in a leader is their ability to generate hope in others. Not only to generate hope in others, but to provide them pathways to realize that hope. Core leadership. And let's call it good. So there's Terrence as a young kitten. I don't know what he's hoping for, but I got a feeling he's hoping for something. He looks like he's ready to pounce on what? Who knows? Guys, I hope you enjoyed this hope. I'm also going to do the hatred one, so we'll do that next. I did it before. They're numerically reversed, but I just wanted to do hope at the moment. So, see you later.